Erie County Council will come to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carol, optional prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. God, lead us in a way of right living. Bind us together with the same thoughts and reasoning with the right meaning behind it. Lead us to go forth to do the best we can in what we have been charged to do. Let us not disappoint the people with the trust they have given in us. As we are aware of the needs and inequities in our community, let us use our resources of time, ability, and money for good. Don't let us be part of the unholy trinity of me, myself, and I. We ask this in the name of our Savior. Amen.
Amen. Next, Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Anderson,
Here.
Mrs. Fatika,
Here.
Dr. Faust,
Here.
Mr. Horton,
Here.
Mrs. Lahl,
Here.
Mr. Rastetter,
Here.
Chairman Leone.
Here. In the hearing of the public, if you call in, and Mr. Patrick Long did call in, you have 5 minutes. Anyone else that wishes to be heard from the public will receive 3 minutes. Mr. Long, please. Would you please give us your name and address? Thank you.
My name's Pat Long. I'm from 2510 Dublin Road in Waterford Township, Pennsylvania. Before I start, I just want to say one thing. I'm not really in favor of LERTAs, mainly because of the damage they do to school districts. That said, the Erie Times News reported that County Council is ready to vote in favor of a 100% tax abatement in a LERTA for all the city of Erie, including the Bayfront and property south of 20th Street. The problem is you are giving a tax break to 97,000 City of Erie residents and businesses, but not giving a county tax break to the 177,000 citizens in the rural areas. This is not right. It makes it look like county council is discriminating against county citizens outside the city. Is it fair for a county resident living in the city to build a new home to get a 10%, a 10-year, 100% break on their county taxes, while a rural county resident building the same home gets no tax break? Is it fair for a business building a multi-million-dollar building in the city of Erie to get a 10-year county tax break, while a business in Harbor Creek, Girard, Platea, Wattsburg, Waterford, Union City, who would build the same building, multi-million-dollar building, would get no tax break from the county? You can change this. You call the shots on how this LERTA is used in the county. You can determine the length of time it runs. You can determine the percentage of county abatement from 0 to 100%. And you can amend it to include all the townships, boroughs, city, and villages outside the city of Erie. You can do it, and you should do it, if you're going to pass a county LERTA for the city. If LERTA can help clean up blight and spur economic development, then everyone in Erie County should be included. I know some of you, Carl, Andre, you guys represent people living in both the city and the county. And you need to treat them the same and give them the same benefits. Kathy, Kyle, Scott, and Carol, you represent rural Erie County. The people in your districts need to be included in the county LERTA to stop blight and provide economic stimulus in their communities. Get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? Once, twice, third and last time. Thank you. Next, reports of county officials. County executive and/or designee.
Not tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Finance Committee, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met on Thursday, March 28th, and put forward for tonight under new business, item A and B. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Personnel Committee, Mr. Rastetter.
Okay, Personnel Committee put on the agenda item A, second reading of ordinance number 13, 2019. 8th, 2019 general fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $86,275 for creation of 2 positions in human resources.
Thank you, Mr. Rastetter.
That concludes my report. Yeah.
Thank you. Next, reports of council. Kathy, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On March 23rd, I attended the 4-H Teen Council's first Government Day, along with County Executive Kathy Dahlkemper and City Councilwoman Kathy Schaaf. A well-represented Kathy event, and all of us were impressed with the maturity, hard work, passion, and the presentations from the group. Most of these young people were from rural areas of Erie County, and they welcome partnership with urban youth, perhaps in connecting in some way with the neighborhood centers in the future. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next is Andre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll talk about the community college again. Despite Pennsylvania being home to 14 community colleges, Erie, the 4th most populous city, represents the largest metropolitan area in the state without a community college. The headlines from the survey, from the application are as follows. Erie County community strongly supports the establishment of a community college and highly values the introduction of more affordable post-secondary options into the market. Item 2, there is a strong demand for education and training that leads directly to available employment in the absence of community college. Local groups such as the Erie Regional Manufacturing Partnership are trying to fill the gap. However, none can address the existing community needs at scale. Groups like these would be partners with the community college. The need is too large for a patchwork approach, and the scale is growing. Relatively large layoffs by a major employer, coupled with a high percentage of local manufacturing workforce nearing retirement, requires sustainable and scalable retraining and new employee opportunities, which increase the urgent need for community college. The community college model supports the need of Erie County. The proposed curriculum is unique to Erie and meets the current needs. The model is nimble and can pivot if those needs shift. The kinds of students that typically enroll in community colleges require a level of advising and guidance that is not possible via distance learning. The kinds of students that typically enroll in community colleges require a level of advising and guidance that is not possible via distance learning. Existing programs should be supported by and complementary to a community college. Erie County is missing out on massive federal investments specifically designed to address the challenges that we in Erie County currently face. 2 years ago, Northeastern Pennsylvania community colleges received a 4-year, $10 million federal grant to develop new degree, certificate, and diploma programs in high-priority career fields. The funding is part of the Trade Adjustment Assistance Community College and Career Training Competitive Grant Program. And Erie could be accessing that if it established a community college. Unprecedented corporate and philanthropic investments are on the table in Erie right now. The $500 million investment underway in Erie's downtown, which is part of the second legislative district, which I represent, creates an opportunity, and it will generate new programming and collaboration opportunities for Erie County Community College. The philanthropic community has committed $4 million to date toward the study and establishment of the community college. So here's what the research showed. The research showed that social, economic, and educational attainment data illustrate that Erie County residents are lagging with respect to educational attainment and wealth creation. College is financially out of reach for a majority of Erie County residents. Even with significant financial aid, students are lacking the financial means to pursue higher education. Erie County has low educational attainment. Erie County has a soft base of high-paying jobs, a significant poverty problem. A community college would be a linchpin in increasing the educational attainment of the region, a key factor to attracting business and industry with decent paying jobs, which could lead to a reduction in poverty. What else did the research show? It showed that affordable education opportunities and training are needed in this area. Poverty levels are high and educational attainment needs to improve. A community college with a connected business community could benefit the residents of Erie County. People need an affordable option to pursue their post-secondary education. Analysis of student and community data show that college affordability is the #1 driver of support for this initiative. The data also suggests that colleges and universities in the area are very generous with financial aid, grants, and scholarships, but the need is too great, and college for most residents is still out of reach. Nationally, community colleges educate students at a much lower cost than four-year institutions. They attract a diverse set of students and have a higher persistence rate for lower income students than for-profit institutions. Higher education via community college is a much less risky endeavor, particularly for those with lower incomes. I could go on, but I won't. I'll come back at the next meeting. I'll give you some more. The issue is dire. The needs are great. We have, since then, that's no longer a $500 million worth of investment in the urban core right in the downtown. It's more like $1 billion of investment. We're 60 miles from a cracker plant that should have a 700 centrifugal mile economic impact. Erie County's not being impacted because we don't have a skilled workforce. We have 22,000 manufacturing jobs. The average age for those employees are 56 years old, and it's a graying workforce. We won't even talk about GE, Wabtec, or whatever it's going to be called. And so while the pro tem of the Pennsylvania House, State, Senate, Mr. Scarnati, while he has a community college in his zip code, we, the residents of Erie County, feel that because zip codes often determine a person's outlook on life or their attainment in life, and we in Erie, Pennsylvania have the dubious distinction of having the poorest zip code in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And so we think that Senator Scarnati, we should have the same opportunities that your kids have. And distance learning, while a great tool, will do nothing will do virtually nothing for those thousands of students and workers who need retraining via distance learning. Give Erie County its day at the Board of Education and vote us up or vote us down, but approve our application or not. However you want to do it, the state, Governor Wolf, our local state legislation, our delegates, both Republican and Democrat, if you're in the Northwest region of Pennsylvania, shame on you if you don't push this initiative forward to its conclusion. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Next is Carl Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple reports to give a quick update on. First, let me begin with the election Equipment Committee, the voting machine research committee has been busy working, doing their due diligence. As most citizens know, this year is a very important year as we will be making the decision on investing in new election equipment that's been mandated by the state. We've had several approved vendors that have come to Erie and made presentations. I want to report tonight that we have Hart coming on April 17th at 1 p.m. for an afternoon presentation. And then also Clear Ballot, who has just recently been certified by the State Department of Elections, will be here on April 30th at 1 p.m. to give a presentation. That will then conclude all of the presentations by at least once by all 5 of the vendors that have been certified by the state, as well as in addition to each of the vendors participating in the statewide event that happened in January here in Erie. The committee feels that we're still on track to get to the full council the results of the research that's been done on the different vendors by June, so council can begin its deliberations to begin to decide a final vendor by July or August. So that concludes my report on the election committee.
Thank you.
Next, I have a couple other reports, Mr. Chairman. Next, I want to give a quick update on the Pleasant Ridge Manor East Committee. The committee has been working equally as diligent with Councilwoman Lowell and Councilman Horton being on the committee, as well as myself. We have been doing our due diligence and research into a variety of options. I know that initially, Mr. Chairman, you had asked us to come back with our report by this meeting, but with the amount of research that we're doing and a couple delays, we feel that it would be more appropriate for us to come to you by the end of April, and we will have a full report for you. So that concludes my report on Pleasant Ridge Manor East.
Thank you.
Next, I want to give a quick update on the LERTA Committee. On March 20th, we had a joint meeting with the City of Erie and the school district to discuss possible options for moving a citywide LERTA forward. We were there in force, Councilman Horton and Councilwoman Lowell and myself. We made known the wishes and the process of the county in which we made them aware that there would, without question, be a public hearing before county council moved forward on any type of vote on LERTA. And I do want to express to folks about the LERTA program that LERTA is first initiated by the municipality in which the LERTA would take place and/or the school district. So county government is essentially the third in line. We are certainly supportive of LERTAs in other areas of the county, but want everyone to be aware that the LERTA would have to be brought forward by the school district or local municipality for us to then sign on to a LERTA. So I certainly respect Mr. Long coming tonight and his frustrations, but would suggest that the Fort LaBeouf School District and the Township of Waterford or Waterford Borough would have to be the ones that would come to us and ask us to sign on to a LERTA with them, and then they are the ones that initiate those conversations and the general framework. Then once again, county government would have the final say-so in the final vote and public hearing. So the city and school district have reached a tentative agreement on what the school district believes they would be willing and able to participate in. And the city then will, they will also hold a public hearing, and it may be that we try and hold a joint public hearing with the school district, the city government, and the county. But no LRTA would move forward for passage without a public hearing. So I just wanted to give a quick update on LRTA, Mr. Chairman, and that concludes that report. And then I have a letter I would like to read to council. And first of all, congratulate you, Mr. Chairman, Leon. This letter is addressed in regards to Fiore Leon, and it says, in fact, Dear Councilmember Leon, congratulations. I am pleased to inform you that you have been nominated and selected to receive one of the governor's 2019 awards for local government excellence. We would like to recognize and thank you for the contribution you have made to your community and for your outstanding service to local government in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We hope that you can join us at the official Local Government Day Awards ceremony, which will be held on Wednesday, April 10th, at the governor's residence in Harrisburg. The ceremony begins at 11 a.m. And is expected to conclude after lunch. Once again, congratulations on receiving this prestigious award, and we look forward to seeing you at the ceremony. This is signed Richard P. Valella, Jr., the Deputy Secretary for the Department of Community and Economic Development. And I have to say that along with Secretary Valella, there is another very proud Erieite involved in the process, someone who I think maybe rises to one of the most important people in the state, and that is Autumn Anderson, who is Deputy Secretary Valella's executive assistant, and she is very excited that somebody from Erie County will be receiving an award and actually coming to Harrisburg. Not only that, I plan to attend with you, Councilman Leon, to honor you in being there, and it's a great excuse for me to go see my daughter as well. So on behalf of all of our colleagues here on County Council and from the State Department of Community and Economic Development, congratulations to you on your upcoming award that you will be receiving.
Thank you.
And those conclude my reports for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Second reading of ordinance number 13 under old business, please. Title only.
A second reading of ordinance number 13, 2019, 8th 2019 general fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $86,275 for creation of 2 positions in human resources.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Comments? If
Mr.
not,
Chairman?
yes.
Several years ago, when the Personnel Department changed its name to Human Resources, it was a dynamic paradigm shift. The antiquated term personnel refers to the concept of people as commodities without regard for their talents, contributions to their employer. The cost of replacing the talents, experience, and contributions are major responsibilities of human resources. The HR department has embraced this responsibility and is eager to track data to determine the reasons for employee turnover, which costs Erie County 1.5 to 4 times a salary to replace that position. In addition, keeping employees healthy and being proactive to employees' needs is vital and could result in health insurance cost savings as well as the cost savings of unplanned work loss. Another benefit, with additional staff, Erie County would be able to complete certification for as a Blue Zone employer and set example for other employers to follow. With this ordinance, we can get on board with Human Resources Plan to improve the health of Erie County employees and improve the services those employees provide.
Mr. Chairman.
uh,
The research that went into these two positions, I don't disagree with, and I appreciate the effort that was done to make the case for us to vote on this tonight. But I learned a long time ago as a councilman that what we need to do here is fund what really is absolutely necessary, as best we can judge that. Not what we would prefer to have, would like to have, and could add benefit to the county. A lot of the arguments that were brought forth, I don't doubt the sincerity of them. I've heard them often when people want to add staff. And there is never a case where this council would approve a 50% increase in staff in other departments. We would never do that. And so while I think these positions are going to pass, I'm not going to support them for those reasons. I don't think this is something that we absolutely need, that we can justify the expense to the taxpayer. And I'm just not going to vote for it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Anderson.
thank you. I think perhaps the older I get, or maybe it's because I'm a parent, I believe more and more in preventative medicine. And I believe in it not only for prevention, but I believe in it as a means for economic development. Not only will these two positions be preventative in nature, which will create a cost savings to our community, but it will show that we have a progressive attitude towards making investments in our community and making investments in programs like the Blue Zones, which are programs that, as you go around the country and businesses are looking to relocate in different areas, they are looking for regions that have programs such as Blue Zones, so they can have healthy communities and healthy options for their children and their families, where they can have trails and safe walking and biking facilities for their families and their children. And so they know that when they come to a community, they're coming to a community that is investing in itself. And many times we vote on a lot of things and we expend a lot of money here. But seldom do we vote for something that has an opportunity to save us intangibly millions and millions of dollars into the future and be an investment in and of ourselves. And so with that said, I am very supportive of these two positions. I know that we will be increasing from a percentage standpoint the HR department by 50%, but as we know, the HR department is underfunded with staff by more than 50%. So these two positions will only bring them up to an equitable portion with other counties statewide of a similar size. I believe these will be great investments for Erie County at a small amount of money, which will make a huge impact and create huge investments in our community for a long time to come. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? If not, roll call.
On ordinance 13, Mr. Anderson,
Yes?
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
No.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Chairman Leone,
No. I'll entertain a motion for second reading of ordinance 14, 15, and
Mr.
also the installation of possible appointment of Melissa Dunsky to the Tax Assessment Review Board.
Mr. Chair, I move that under new business, item A and B, that we move ordinance number 14 and 15 to a second reading, and also that we add item D to the agenda for possible appointment.
Second that motion.
Moved by Andre, seconded by Mr. Anderson. Comments? Roll call.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
No.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Chairman Leone.
Yes. Okay, let's have second reading of ordinance 14 and title only, please.
A second reading of ordinance number 14, 2019, ninth 2019 general fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $25,000 for census coordinator contract position.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Anderson.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Horton.
Mr.
Comments?
Chairman,
Go ahead.
I just want to make a brief comment on this. We had much discussion on this at Thursday, but I think it goes without saying that this is an important item, and the public should understand and be aware of what we're attempting to accomplish here tonight. The federal census, which will be coming around in 2020, the federal government has a regional partner or census manager who will take on a 5-county area, who is essentially in place to look after the interests of the federal government. This position would look after the interests of the residents of Erie County. Again, this would be an investment in our community to ensure that we get the maximum amount of calculation with the census to ensure our maximum amount of funds that come from the federal government. With the $25,000 that County Council is proposing or putting forward tonight, and the reason we moved it to a second is because, I should digress and say that the coordinating organization is going to be the Council of Governments, and we should thank Jessica Horan-Kunso for taking that on. But with doing that, there's a timely situation here where we have an opportunity to match our $25,000 by 2-for-1 with a grant from the Erie County Gaming Revenue Authority, which is going to step forward with $50,000 towards this position. And that grant and our matching money for that needs to be in place as of yesterday or today. So that is the reason that we're moving that forward. And again, it's not as much of a expenditure as it is an investment and an insurance policy for the taxpayers of Erie County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just quickly, some things may look similar, but they're not. This is a contract position, so it's not a permanent county employee. The importance of an accurate census is too important to pass up with what is a small amount of money to partnership with other entities, and so I will be supporting this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? If not, roll call.
On ordinance 14, Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Chairman Leone.
Yes. Next is second reading of ordinance 15 in title only when you get a chance, Mr. Clerk.
A second reading of ordinance number 15, 2019, 10th 2019 general fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $15,000 for community college impact study update.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Horton, seconded by Mrs. Fatika. Comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Faust,
Just
Dr.
to
Faust.
make it clear, I've said this in our caucuses, so I want to make sure that the public hears it as well. I don't doubt, especially on the part of Mr. Horton, who has been the loudest advocate for the community college, the passion or the sincerity that the people who are constantly coming to us and supportive of the community college have, or the accuracy of their arguments. But the reason I'm not going to support this particular expenditure is that, to me, it misses the point. it misses the mark. The words that have been spoken and the advocacy that have been brought to this council, they're not falling on deaf ears, but they're falling on the wrong ears. Erie County has agreed to be the local sponsor for the community college. This decision now rests with the state. And $15,000 or $1 million, and all the words that we have here are not going to change that, are not going to affect them here. If we want this to move to the next step, all this energy needs to be focused on Harrisburg, especially Senator Scarnati, if the paper and the rumors are to be believed, to have him, as Mr. Hort said, vote it up or vote it down, so Erie County knows what our next move needs to be. But our focus needs to be on Harrisburg, and the state isn't asking for this information. So it isn't going to factor into their decision at all, in my opinion. And so I think we're not wasting money, but it's money not well spent, and therefore I'm not going to support this particular initiative. Thank you.
Other comments? Roll call.
On ordinance 15, Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
No.
Mr. Rastetter,
No.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
No.
Chairman Leone.
Yes. Next is the possible appointment of Gary Please read it, Mr. Clerk.
Possible appointment of Gary Carmesino to the Erie County Board of Tax Assessment Appeals to a 4-year term expiring March 31, 2023. He would represent the West County districts of council members Lowell and Fatika.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Fatika, seconded by Mrs. Lowell. Comments? If not, roll call.
On the motion, Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes,
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Chairman Leone.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr.
Move to approve the appointment of Jennifer Zadunsky to the same Erie County Board of Assessment Appeals. This would fill the unexpired term of Jerry Nuara, who is leaving the area, which ends April 30th, 2020.
Moved by Dr. Faust, seconded by
Second.
Kathy Fatika. Comments? If not, roll call on the possible appointment.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Chairman Leone.
Yes. Any further business? Move
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
and adjourn.